Hi again, guys. Hopefully, this one will go well. I am going to be interviewing at Wicked Jono in a couple of seconds. There is his invite. Really hoping that my network doesn't fail me today. I just accepted your ad, Jono, so I'm just kind of waiting for it to connect. So it's everything I'm supposed to do on my end has been done. So just let me know what your phone is telling you at the moment. Just check if your connection is strong. Hi, Emax. You're my first viewer. Thanks for the wave. Hi, Jono. I can kind of hear you, but I can't see you. But I can hear like noises.
There I am.
There we go. Hi.
Yes. Hi, yo, man. Hey, that was a bit weird, but okay. I'm glad we're on now.
Let me just
Can
send
you
a
hear
shout out.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you proper. Let me send a shout out to our viewers. I see at Waps Worldwide is here. Thank you for joining me, Waps. We are going to be interviewing Jono today, and we're going to start from the genesis of where it all began. And so I want to start because I've heard from you that your journey traces back to over 10 years ago. You started at the age of 13. So maybe we can kickstart the interview by looking at what your understanding of rapping has been and how it's evolved since the age of 13.
Um, that's cool. That's really cool. Rapping to me, it was just it started off as a hobby, I guess. Um, I began like rapping other people's raps, if, um, and then once I started doing that, I was like, okay, let me transition into writing and stuff. So yeah, I mean, what was going on at the time, I think Lil Wayne was pretty big and stuff. If any of you remember, I don't know if it was the Carter 3 or something like that, but yeah. So I just fell in love with rap and stuff, and then I looked back, at 80s and 90s rap, and then, you know, I used it to improve and help my style, and then yeah, I started writing, and then it went on from there.
From the young age of 13, I know you had shared with me that your raps were actually not that quite bad for a 13-year-old. Why do you think that is? Why do you think you were off to a great start when you started out?
Um, Honestly, I feel like it's on some divine tip, low key, because um, but to be more realistic, I wouldn't say realistic, but if we're gonna put it in more practical terms, I'd probably say it was maybe subconsciously things from the past and stuff. Um,
Mm,
I used to draw comics and stuff, and I used to like write little stories, and I used to like listen to rap and stuff. So
mm,
yeah, it was like adding two and two together, and I was like, yo, this is the perfect marriage, because I was like, yeah. Then when I started scripting, you know, I didn't really realize it as much, but people were like, yo, man, that's some dope stuff. And I was like, okay, okay. Then I
mhm.
continued, and yeah.
Cool. So just for people who are joining that may have not heard your music yet, because I know you're still pretty new to the whole releasing it to the world thing, but could you just briefly explain your rapping style? Do you rap about your experiences? What kind of could you give us a glimpse into what you rap about?
Um, well, in terms of style, I think every other artist can attest to the fact that you're sort of like an amalgamation of different things. You don't just start, there's always these influences that come at you. So I used to listen to a lot of 90s rap in the beginning, like KRS-One and um, Eric B. and Rakim. That was like 80s rap. So yeah, Eminem as well. I mean, that was like the first CD I listened to when I was young. So I'd probably describe my style, especially in the early days, to be like lyrical and conscious. It's called conscious rap, where you talk about issues around you and things
Mm,
that affect your life and stuff. And then um, as I evolved as a rapper, I realized, yo, I don't need to, compartmentalize myself into one style. So
Right.
I started like really utilizing boastful rap, and a lot of my newer things, you'll hear that I use a newer style and trap, some people would
Mhm.
call it. And yeah, I just use it to show you that, nah, I can still be lyrical and say things, you know, better than the next man, on a trap beat, which many people would think, this is just trap, it's all the same flow. But it's like, yo, I'm showing skill and technique. That's sort of like the things I was groomed on. So, yeah.
You touched on skill and technique. And the reason why I'm
Hmm.
bringing that out is I like that you spoke about consciousness and how you used your app as a platform to be conscious, but then you still felt like it can do so much more. You didn't limit yourself. Like you said, you didn't compartmentalize everything that you're doing to be just that one thing. Apart from that lesson of learning to diversify even just your expression, what other lessons do you think you've learned in the past 10 years of rapping? Are there any things that you think you could have learned at the beginning of your career that could have helped you?
Um, what I've learned, one of the main things I've learned is, just have fun. You know what I mean? Life is short. Um, not to say that don't talk about serious topics and stuff, but really explore your style. You know what I mean? One thing I was caught up in was, you know, trying to be way too conscious and trying to be way too serious and stuff for years on end. Then I learned like, yo, man, I can be boastful and I can have fun with it, but
Right,
still show people that I came from lyricism. I came from uh, the roots. My roots are lyricism and its technique and its skill. You know what I mean? And you can hear it. I mean, you can hear the difference between someone who's like not as good and someone who's really lyrical, even though they're both having fun and they're both, using a kind of trappy flow and stuff. So, yeah, that's what I've learned. Just be flexible with yourself. I mean, it will get you a lot of appreciation. Yeah.
I feel like I'm taking that word for myself. I'm taking that like I'm testing that. Because I know for me, I started
Yeah.
off as a portrait photographer and I was taking pictures of people. And then I went into documentary work, which is what I still do. But my work is very like consciousness and being in that state to create is very emotionally draining sometimes. So I'm learning to kind of have like an outlet. So right now I'm like trying to develop painting, and painting is not going to be like conscious, any socially conscious narratives that I've done before. It's going to be more easy flowing. I don't even want to have any sort of meaning from my paintings. I want them to just be as abstract as can be. So I'm taking that for myself, like need to relax, need to calm
Yeah.
down. You can do so much more with your creativity, and you should explore, like you're saying, you should explore your style and see what it has to offer you.
Yeah.
So moving
Yeah.
on, I
Just have
mean,
fun.
right. And I
Just
mean,
have.
moving on, you spoke about like I said earlier on, you just started releasing your work. I want to understand what were the reasons or the concerns that you may have had in terms of releasing your work. Like I said, you've been doing this for over 10 years. You're fairly confident in it from what we're seeing. What is it that held you back and how did you overcome it?
Um, I think people in my position would be able to attest to this as well. People listening to your work, you know what I mean? People getting your work out there to a platform where it will be heard um, and people will honestly appreciate it, truly appreciate. I remember that conversation with you and my pillow that time. That sort of came up of like, are we really supporting our artists? Are we showing them the love that we need to show them? So that's one of the things I've had to deal with. I mean, even my dad told me like, yo, your stuff is like not for the local ear. You know what I mean? So that's something I've had to struggle with. You know, I've had to work my way around that. And yeah, I don't really roll with clicks like that. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
too much of a sociable person. I mean, I would like to be, I'm working on it, but that sort of hindered my progress in terms of like SoundCloud listens and plays. So these are some of the realities I've had to sort of open my eyes to over the
Right.
years.
I think a lot of us as creatives can relate to that feeling as though the market or the environment is not conducive for your work and you start to feel like, oh, should I release, should I not? But I'm very grateful nevertheless that you took the leap and started releasing your work. I know you released that song Muhammad Ali, which I listened to, and we're waiting on your EP that's also releasing soon, so we have a lot to look forward to. I'm glad that you took the step to release new work. But even apart from that as a factor of why you couldn't have released, I know you've shared with me as well that even during recording sessions, there's limited access to certain equipment and just certain things that you may have wanted to start out with, but you've started nevertheless. You've put yourself out there and you started with what you have. How did you make do with what you had, and what has that taught you, being able to work with the little things that you have at your disposal to make the music?
Yeah, that's a good question because it just took me back to my first recording. You know what I mean? It was on a webcam. You know, at school we used to record in classrooms and shit and stuff. Sorry, we used to record in classrooms and we used to put like jerseys over webcam to try and get the sound clear. But because working with minimal things sort of teaches you to be more creative, and you know, it teaches you to work with what you have, you know, because while people have these big studios and have all this, you know, equipment that's great for mastering and mixing and all that, you know, it's good to work with what you have, you know, what you start with. So by the time you get to that level where you have quality equipment, you're like, you know what, you know, I'm creative enough, you know, I don't need to let this control me, you know.
Mm.
Creativity is the first thing that you need to bring to the table, you know. So all the other quality things will come next. So for if I'd offer quick advice to any like startup musician, don't worry about like having everything, you know, in the beginning. I mean, even the studio I have now, I'm recording at now, is pretty minimal, you know. So work with what you have, you know, build up to a certain level, but your creativity will always be recognized either way.
True. I like that
Yeah.
because for me personally, I have this like weird like attachment to the roughness of like the beginning of a path. Like when you start out and it's not perfect, when I look at my old work, I'm like, oh, it's so cute because I'm like, oh my gosh, I put myself out there when I had like no editing software at the time. I used Instagram to edit pictures and I didn't even have like the best camera in the world. It was such a bad camera. But I like that, like you're saying, it teaches you a lot about your own creativity and your own power. Because what that did, even in my life, is I don't rely on camera. There are some people who say things like, if I could just get this camera, then my photography career will kick off. If I could just get this camera. In fact, I'm not even camera savvy, and it's not because I think my work is the biggest and the bestest and everything, but I just don't have that reliance on equipment. So it does teach you a lot when you start humbly. You start with what you have and you make do with what you have. So, like you're saying, I hope to for other creatives that are watching, that's a lesson that they're taking home. So moving on to other things you do apart from rap. I know you started a blog. I was actually listening to it I think 2 nights ago. And I want you to elaborate on why you started the blog. From what I've heard just in general and the kind of conversations I've seen you have with people, it seems you have a keen interest in the stories of the people behind the music. You're very interested in who they really are and what they like and the little details that people don't necessarily pay attention to, that somehow have a way to seep into how they create their work. Why is that important to you?
It's important to me because I don't want to feel like I'm just a part, like I don't know what to call it. I don't want to feel like I'm just coming and then going, you know, in this whole art thing. This fear. I want to add to it. I want to build it as well. So that immediately made me think, why don't I document other artists or document what other artists are saying, you know? Of course, down the years, I want to do more elaborate things with it and stuff. But, you know, like starting with interviews is cool because you're literally talking to someone and getting their opinion. It's like this, you know,
Mm,
getting their opinion, knowing that you
Hi guys, so I had a bit of an internet issue. So hopefully Jono will be joining us in a couple of seconds because I ran out of bundles and I had to like resubscribe. But yeah, we're just gonna wait on him. But I hope you guys are listening to the insightful information that he's providing us with today. I think he's so much more than just a rapper, and his overall vision for the rap scene in Botswana, the rapper scene, entertainment scene in Botswana, and just so many other things that attribute to the creative scene, I feel is phenomenal. I relate with him in so many ways and on so many levels. So yeah, I was excited for this interview because of that. So I'm just going to wait for him to join us and we could pick up from where we left off. There's his ad, so he'll be joining us in a few seconds. Kickstarting from why it was important for him to start a blog for other rappers. Hopefully we'll join in a couple of seconds. Otherwise, shout out to people that are joining. Shato N1K_U, Lumile, Samantha Claire, Princess of Rain, Tsidiso, and Toa. Thank you for joining me, guys. Thank you for joining us. All right, Jono, can you hear me?
And we're back.
We
Are
are.
we back?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, Ace. Sorry to this, man. Hey, these live hits.
It's
Hey,
okay,
man.
man.
Yo, I can relate so much to that bundle thing. It's like, just, but anyway, yeah, let's go.
All right, cool. So, I mean, you were answering the question on why it was important for you to start the blog, and you were talking about platforms like this and why they're so important in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, people have come to me saying, like, yo, you're doing some great stuff, and that's when I realized, like, yo, documenting stuff is important. So, you know, I'm a geek for music and hip hop culture. So, it became an easy thing for me.
Oh my gosh, I'm a geek for hip hop culture. That's deep. I'm a geek for.
Hmm.
I'm gonna start saying that
Yeah,
about
you have to be,
myself.
man. You
But
have
it's
to be
true
a
because
geek
you're
for what
willing
you
to focus on the things that people oftentimes overlook, like all the other aspects that get into creating this whole scene. You know what I mean? Like you're more
do.
interested in that stuff. And people sometimes we get so absorbed in our own personal creative journeys. So it means a lot to have people like you who provide platforms for other rappers to kind of like put themselves out there and have dialogues with each other within the rap scene and kind of like realize that there's so much outside of them. So I think that's why so many people are backing you up on what you're doing.
Most def.
So I mean, even
That's
in
dope.
terms of the blog, what is your overall vision? Do you have a long-term vision or what do you intend to take it? What can we expect so far? I know you've released 2 interviews, I think. What can we expect
Yeah.
moving forward?
Um, I want to be diverse with it. So I tried out the 2 interviews. I still want to do a lot more. I mean, I'm pretty much offering anyone. No, it's not just hip hop, by the way. It's any sort of artist or content creator or anything like of the sort.
Cool.
So moving forward, I wanna just put videos. You know what I mean? Like just at the studio recently, I took like a video of us in the studio working. Like so putting like short videos showing what I'm up to. Just
Mhm.
for people to get to know me and also covering shows and events and stuff. That's
Cool.
what I want to do, and writing reviews about those events, and also writing reviews about music. Hopefully local music. If I
Mhm.
can get my hands on it. Yeah.
That's cool. So just any
So
all-around production around music, any music production, preferably in the local scene, you want to be able to cover that. So that's what we can be looking forward
yeah,
to. Interesting. I like that.
exactly.
Cool. And I mean, coming to conclusion, I'm going to ask you two last questions, but the second last one I want to start with is, what would your advice be to anyone reluctant to pursue their passion in rap? I know you had shared that you had that battle of, oh, how's my stuff going to kind of fit into the local scene and how am I going to make it work? What would your advice be to anyone who's trying to pursue a career in rap or even just a passion at a passion level in Botswana?
To anyone who's trying to pursue rap in Botswana, be like Rex, the guy who just joined. No, I'm playing. Hey, what's up, dude? Yo, I love this guy. He's a dope rapper. Anyways, just be persistent. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
it's not necessarily the kind of scene where rap is a big thing yet. I mean, in my first interview at Tabs, we sort of had the idea that it's going somewhere. Even with Coolner, the second interview, we were like, yo, this thing is going somewhere. But it's not quite there yet. So I just want people to be like positive and stuff. Be positive about where it's headed and just keep pushing because we need to work together, you know what I mean? Like we need to come together as artists or rappers or whatever and push for the future because that's what South Africans did. They really supported each other and we need to call each other out. I told you about this, Toela. We need to call each
Yeah.
other out if we're artists. We need to say, no, that shit's whack. That stuff's whack. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that,
Yeah.
like, and we need to say, we need to big each other up, like, yo, man, that's dope, so, because we are our first, judges before we package, each other and send it to the world. So
That's
we
true.
need to just be, yeah, we need to build ourselves,
And we need to,
because
like you
we're
say, we
dope.
need to be real. We need to be real with each other in terms of production. I think I'd shared with you that at some point you would get a high five for starting, which is great, cool start. But then there's levels, and then you want to get to a point where you're not just getting support because you started, but
Exactly.
because you're actually good. And it's not just like, oh, good for you for starting. It's actually because you're delivering. So, I mean, there's levels to it, but that's what we should all aspire to. We should all be able to be in a position where we want to see each of us as individuals in the creative scene want to be able to deliver and do better and reach each other's like prime without it having to be an issue for any other person. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's something we should all aspire to. We sleep on that so much. We don't know the impact of it, but it's something we should start taking seriously. And I mean, in conclusion, now that you have your work out there, how do we access it? Give us links to the blog, the Instagram, the Facebook, the email, the number, the everything. Like, give us details. How do we get in touch with you?
um I don't know about my number. Maybe people can ask me personally about that. But
Right.
with stuff, yeah, Wicked Jono just on SoundCloud. The
Okay.
name that is on my Instagram, Wicked Jono. So um, on Facebook it's Poetic Enigma with a K. Because that's my battle name. You know what I mean? So I use my battle name on Facebook. But yeah, every other platform, just Wicked Jono. Twitter, SoundCloud, Instagram. Um, and normally what I do is post links to my SoundCloud. So
Okay.
however way you follow me or whatever social media platform you choose to find me, then it'll link you to my music on SoundCloud. So yeah, Wicked
Right.
Jono on SoundCloud. Yeah.
Got it. Wicked Jono on
Dope
SoundCloud.
stuff. There's a lot of old stuff coming. You know what I mean? So
Everyone is
sorry.
pulling through for you. I see at
Yeah.
Kong Apollo as well, and Rex as well.
Yeah.
Everyone is pulling through for you today. All right, this marks the end of our interview, Jono. I know this is not going to be our last one, but just for now, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for answering all my questions. Thank you for taking us through your journey and being as real as you can be about what the way forward is, not just for you, but for all of us as creatives, giving us advice and giving us all kinds of insight for people that may want to join the rap industry but may have not known where to start start from. I'm sure your interview may have inspired them to take the first step. And I'm sure if they need any help, they could always hit you up on your Instagram every now and again if they need any help. Otherwise, thank you for joining me. We're waiting on that EP. I think that's what Rex is talking about in the comment section
Yeah,
also, the collective.
oh damn, and it was
So I see he's
inspired by
giving the EP a shout out. When can we expect it though? Give us like a timeline.
that's he's shouting out the collective. The collective is like, that's some ill stuff that's coming soon. So Rex and I are part of it. But yeah, the
Ooh.
EP, I haven't set up a date for it yet, but it's pretty much done. You know what I mean? It just needs mixing and mastering and all that jazz. But it's called BAM. You know what I mean?
It's
If
called
anyone wants to know, BAM.
BAM.
BAM, BAM.
Cool.
Yeah, it was inspired by Paul McCartney, who had an album called Ram. So
Ah,
yeah,
so you
I
just
hope I
copied and
do.
pasted what you did. Oh, cool. All
Yeah,
right, we're
yeah,
gonna be
it's a
looking
very
forward to that. The EP and even the
yeah.
collective seems you have
Thank you.
so much stuff coming out. So we will just follow you on Instagram, on SoundCloud, on Facebook at Wicked Jono for all of those who may have missed it. Otherwise, thank you for joining me, Jono. I hope you enjoy your weekend. Oh, it's the week.
Shout
The week
out.
is starting tomorrow.
Thanks.
But hope you enjoy your week.
The Man United. I'm checking Man U versus Arsenal, so I hope Arsenal won low key. But yeah,
Oh man.
peace out.
Let's hope it does.
Peace out.
All right, cheers,
Yeah.
bro.
We'll talk.
All right, cheers.